welcome back to Daleks Aren't Robots. I, as always, am your host and future God King, Josh. You just don't know it yet. Give it time. And I am joined here, as always, with my friends. We have our resident Doctor Who factor, Zach.
Hello.
And our resident producer / meme lion, Kari.
Woohoo, that's me.
Justin, sadly, is doing finals and studying like a nerd, so he can't be here to talk about a British sci-fi show from the 1960s like The Cool Kids. Today, we will be talking about the Aztecs, one of my favorite episodes of the Hartnell era. But before we get to that, Kari, you said you wanted to say a few words.
I have been converted, I guess. I wouldn't call myself a fan necessarily yet, but I do kind of love the show now. What happened was I was going back and doing some of the memes from the previous episode, The Keys of Marinus, and I noticed something when I was going back through the episodes. While I was looking at those ridiculous looking brain slugs, what are they called? Morphos, is that right?
I believe that is the Morphos, yes.
Yes, they are so stupid looking. They are some of the dumbest looking monsters I have ever seen in my life. And I have watched almost every episode of Mystery Science Theater 3000. So I have seen some ridiculous looking monsters, and these are some of the dumbest ever. And when I was going back to look for images for the memes, I noticed that someone had put some little mechanism inside these ridiculous, dumb-looking brain slugs to make it look like they were breathing. And somebody really, really cared about those stupid brain slugs. They really, really cared. They didn't need to do that, but they went to the extra effort to do it. And I kind of love that. It was very charming. So I kind of fell in love with this show.
All right.
I'm not going to say I'm a fan yet, but I like this show.
So we have new diehard Whovian Kari.
I'm
That's
not
what I
going
heard.
that far yet.
But we've got her liking the show. So thank you, mysterious brain slug pump man, for
They're so
converting our
cute.
friend. The question, of course, is, did we lose her? So Kari, would you mind summing up the Aztecs for us?
Okay. The TARDIS lands this time in an Aztec tomb, and the door shuts as soon as they leave the tomb, so they can't get back to the TARDIS. Barbara is immediately mistaken for the reincarnation of an Aztec god priest named Yetaxa. Fortunately, Aztecs are one of her academic specialties, so she can play along and stall for time until they can get back to the TARDIS. Things get super political when Barbara tries to stop the human sacrifice. Ian wears a battle chicken outfit and the Doctor gets engaged, but in the end they find their way back into the temple and the TARDIS and escape the Aztecs, the battle chicken outfit, and the Doctor's fiance.
Ian also, as a battle chicken, has to fight the battle puma, which is, of course, the battle chicken's archenemy.
Yes, they are natural enemies. Cat and bird,
Yeah.
Story for the ages.
Some of you may recognize this, of course, as very similar to the plot of the wonderful masterpiece, The Road to El Dorado. So clearly DreamWorks ripped off Doctor Who, is what I am implying here.
I just figured the battle chicken was a Pokemon.
Could be. I assume it's like a alternate Iron Man suit, like one of the ones that he made but ultimately rejected.
I don't know. I don't think he would reject it. Tony Stark, I could see him wearing feathers.
Maybe.
I could definitely see. They'd be like peacock feathers, though.
The feathers were annoying on set.
Well, they were hilarious on the screen.
They kept tickling people and getting in the way of shots. And
that and Ian's propensity to go.
I'm hoping one of the times Ixta was having his villainous I am your arch enemy now moments with Ian, the feathers would tickle him and he'd just start laughing. That would be wonderful.
That was great. Well, we should start with the Aztecs then.
Yes.
The Aztecs themselves, there are a lot of them. They actually got pretty good characterization, I thought. There were good ones and bad ones and people who were kind of in between and not sure what to think. I have read a little bit about the Aztec civilization, but not a ton. So I'm not totally sure how accurate the episode is. I saw some things that kind of ticked me off, but I saw other things that were like, yeah, that's right. Like the fact that they use cocoa beans as a currency. That's correct.
Mm.
There was a little bit of smugness about how civilized they aren't compared to everybody else, like the
Yeah.
Doctor and the Time Travelers, but it wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. They
Mm.
are all white, though, I think.
Yep,
Yes,
they
yes,
are
they
all,
are.
They are all British people in brown face. Unlike Marco Polo, which managed to find some Asians to put in here, they didn't even try.
Yeah, that element of it is not great.
We say that there's some evil ones. We do have one evil one who is basically just doing Richard III.
Yeah, at one point, there are two bad guys in this. There's an evil high priest named Tlatoxel, I think.
I think
But
it's
I mostly
Clototl.
just called him Evil Priest.
Mm.
And Ixta, a warrior that Evil Priest sets up as Ian's like foe and enemy. And Evil Priest is super over the top, and he chews all of the scenery. And he doesn't believe that Barbara is Yetaxa, and he sees like the TARDIS group as political threats.
Which, to be fair, they
Reacts to
kind
this
of
by just
are.
blatantly turning to the camera and giving soliloquies. It was
He does.
it was bizarre because the show has not done that before. And I was like, is this diegetical? Like, is he doing this? Is he like literally standing on top of this temple and like turning to a wall and talking to it?
Especially since like the main cast was right behind him at points and didn't react to what he was doing.
So it must not be. Like, this must be all in his head or something. I mean, it was just like freaking Saved by the Bell or something. I don't even know.
It's like the rest of it is a regular Doctor Who style show, and then the villain is this wandering lost Shakespeare villain.
He absolutely Richard III's right at the camera.
He does.
It was bizarre. I don't know what that was about because nobody else has done that in this show that I have noticed.
If we wanted to do a little bit on the accuracy, everyone actually did a lot of research, and as Verdi Lambert would say, when they did a historical, they had to be completely accurate. Right costumes, right designs, right history, right dates, as much as they can. Now, here's the problem. It was as completely accurate as they could make it with what they knew in the 1960s.
And with what they could afford.
Well,
and with what they were allowed to do, because everyone is wearing pants. These are the most clothed Aztecs in history. Like, I'm not saying that they didn't have pants, because they did, but like everybody is wearing just all the clothes. There's like 10 layers on these people. It's amazing. So like they do the loincloth over their pants.
Are we moving on to Mary Whitehouse from there? Is that
well, we'll get there in a second.
Okay. I know she's coming. I'm gearing up for that.
Yeah, they did use artistic license on that because they weren't getting away with nudity.
On the one hand, shame for historical accuracy. On the other hand, it means you didn't have to see Ian's underwear again.
That's true. Thank God.
You had some attempts at nudity throughout points. Some of it, most of it post-watershed, some of it pre at this point. You also had a major push against all of that, against swearing, nudity.
For non-British listeners, incidentally, pre-watershed and post-watershed refer to time slots. After a certain point, it is allowed to be more adult, whereas earlier stuff has to be a little cleaner because kids might be watching.
Right, and this is a specific show geared at families, so that does make sense.
Yes, and we'll get more into her later because she definitely clashed horns with Doctor Who later on. Mary Whitehouse, at points called the most dangerous woman in Britain.
Was Margaret Thatcher alive at that time?
No. Well, she
Mary Whitehouse got along pretty well with the Thatcher administration. She was extremely conservative and didn't believe that there should be
Basically, she felt the Aztecs should wear pants.
Yes, no foul language, adultery, homosexuality, nudity, drinking, swearing, anything.
It's like, imagine if Ben Shapiro was crossed with Tipper Gore. That's kind of what we're on here.
I'm going to need some eye bleach for that. No, Aztecs wearing pants. It's weird. Anyway, that's the Aztecs. We've kind of drawn a thumbnail of just them generally. But the actual characters I thought were pretty good too. The
Yeah.
doctor gets a love interest in this episode.
Yes,
Her-
Kameka.
Yep, she's an Aztec wise woman. She gives good advice to others, enough that she's known for that. She seems to know a lot about botany. She's smart, she's pretty, she's age appropriate for the doctor. She's not like 40 years younger than him or anything. She's really keen on the doctor. And like initially, the premise is that he's buttering her up to get her help so that they can get back to the TARDIS. But when they leave the planet, he keeps the token that she gave him. And at one point, she even manages to get engaged to him, although he is totally unaware that he is doing that.
We pull a whole Yosaf Bridge moment where she like tricks the doc. Well, she doesn't necessarily
No,
trick
she doesn't
him.
trick him. She thinks that he's doing it on purpose.
Yeah, but it is like oh, the doctor did this thing. Oh, that means we're engaged now. And then the doctor makes a face like, what?
Yep.
It's pretty
He had
entertaining.
no idea. But it's
Um,
clear at the end that he was pretty into it.
I will say one other thing, because this is a point that I will be salty about in the future and probably bring up every time I see evidence to the contrary. After this episode, Zach and I were going over some old Doctor Who interviews and reviews and stuff, and I think it was on the Wikipedia page itself, she is listed as the first person that the Doctor shows romantic interest in and would be the last one until the 8th Doctor, and I call that a highly debatable point. There are several other Doctor companion moments that I would describe as very ship fuely.
I'll have to watch for those.
So I'm, especially when we get to the next era, I am calling bullshit, and I will point that out in the future.
I did feel like I could ship him and Kameka. They were
Yes.
cute. They seemed really suited to each other. I kind of wish that he would whisk her off and, that he could have had a smart older lady too.
And she's got enough grit that she could put up with the Doctor's bullshit.
And see through it a lot of the time too, I think.
Yes.
Because there was at least one part where he tried to lie to her and it did not work.
It's really amazing. I really love this serial. It's one of the ones from the Hartnell era that I think really holds up and works very well for me. And I always forget how touching that goodbye scene is where she like walks away from the Doctor in the last episode.
That was sweet.
And it's just, you feel really bad for both of them.
Yeah. The one thing is the brown face though. That was yikes.
I love this episode. I will be very positive, but if the brown face and the very condescending attitude towards the Aztecs turns you off of this episode, I totally get it. People at home, I get that this is maybe not going to hit for everyone the way it hits for me and my very white skin.
The other Aztec that gets some time is Otlock, and he's like the good priest. And it's kind of interesting. He doesn't get a ton of characterization, but he does get some. He believes that Barbara is Yetaxa, but when he's not sure, even then, he's kind of presented as a decent person. But in the end, he loses his faith and goes to wander in the woods, which is A, really sad, and B, presented as really sad.
Yes, it is.
Yep.
Which I also felt like was unusual for the time. That's much more empathetic than, oh, that barbarian doesn't believe in God or, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And I also like that it's a sacrificial moment from him because he's giving up his possessions to basically free Ian and Susan. But it's not a, I sacrifice myself with my death thing, which happens all the time with these sorts of characters. It's a much quieter moment. And they let it be a much quieter moment. And I think it works.
He gets to keep his dignity, which is more than I can say for Ian in his chicken suit.
Ian gets to be the action physicist, though.
He does. Overall, I would say that this episode was actually really good with all of the characters except Susan.
Yeah.
But of all of the characters that it's good to, Barbara is like the queen.
It is Barbara's episode. Before we move on to that, though, you did kind of skip over my favorite of the Aztec characters, which is Ixta.
I didn't skip him. I talked about the two evil guys.
Yeah, but I find Ixta the more interesting of the two evil guys, personally. Like, evil priest guy whose name I cannot pronounce is
He's just evil priest.
he's very campy and over the top, but Ixta has like a weird metamorphosis into a real bad guy, where when we first meet him, he's just kind of a cocky dude, and when he's sort of shamed by Ian, he becomes kind of obsessed with that wound to his pride and gets shiftier and shiftier about writing it. And I kind of wish we'd had more time with Ixta in a weird way, because I feel like there's a lot of more damage to that guy that would be interesting to look into.
Yeah, I don't know what the chip on his shoulder is. His whole thing is that he wants to command the armies. And so he's apparently defeated 6 other people before Ian to get there. And he thinks that Ian's going to be the 7th one, I think, or something like that.
Yes.
So obviously he's super ambitious, but he's also kind of a meathead. He sort of struck me as a dumb jock.
Yep.
Like a dumb, evil jock.
Yeah, and Taloxel just keeps pointing him at Ian until it becomes personal.
Right.
Yeah.
He's being used, essentially, in this case.
Also, I want to justify, we brought up Ian being the action physicist, and just to bring up a bit of history, Ian would have had to serve 18 months in the military. Based on his age and when he was growing up as a character in Britain.
Oh.
That makes sense now, then.
It is interesting they never bring that up.
Well,
Probably
it would
everyone
just
would
have
have
been
known.
assumed.
Yeah.
It's a required military service for all men of a certain age.
So he probably served in World War II.
Or just afterward. Interesting.
We'll get to Barbara, but we should probably talk about the sad fate of Susan.
So with Susan, I'm just going to lay it out before you get into it. Carol Ann Ford, they had planned it out in the shooting break and they knew this as the episode was being written, that she was going to be missing at least half of the episodes. Now, instead of just completely writing her out because she wasn't around for filming episodes 2 and 3, Luke Arati did write in somewhat of a plot line for her, because he's also the one who wrote Marco Polo. As you remember, that's where we got the Ping Cho plot line with her.
Luke Arati seemed to be one of the few writers who actually wanted to do stuff with Susan, whereas most of the writers seem to view her as kind of a burden.
But he had to work around not having her around. All the stuff with her in episode 2 and 3 was shot during the last shooting block of Keys of Marinus. So what we have of her is basically what they managed to pull together because the actress wasn't around for the shooting.
She does really, character-wise, get the short end of the stick, though. She's in a tent going to Aztec school for a lot of it, and then she imperils the party by not agreeing to an arranged marriage with the next sacrificial victim, who's due to die in, 3 days. He honestly doesn't seem that bad, and I'm not saying that she should have agreed to marry him, but she, didn't even try to stall for time, or asking him to think about it, or saying that in my culture we get engaged after 3 days, she could have come up with something. It was not good for the character.
No. I've mentioned before that unfortunately, as the show progressed, Susan goes from sort of a craftier, more spunky character early on, devolves over the show to damsel, and it kind of started with Marinus, I think, is the real point where there's just nothing for her to work with for most of the story. And here that's kind of the same thing.
Yeah, it's not good.
No.
And it just gets worse.
Yeah.
Well, I don't look forward to that.
No. My favorite companion, though, this is definitely Barbara's Serial. I would argue
it really is. She is the queen. Almost literally, she's the queen. She is the goddess in this one.
She is.
It was the actress's favorite episode.
No kidding.
It was great. Right as soon as she gets off that TARDIS, she heads straight for the corpse of Yetaxa and investigates it. She's not like, ooh, a dead body. She's like, ooh, a dead body. I wonder what this is. And she identifies where and when they are. She doesn't let anybody push her around. At one point, the evil priest tries to gatekeep her by asking her about Aztec cosmology, but she knows all the answers and she shuts him down.
You're not a real priestess. Tell us about the 12 heavens then, huh?
13.
Huh?
Yeah. Yeah, there's 13. Yeah. No, she knows all the answers.
I also love at one point the evil priest is trying to pull reveal you're not the priestess or I will kill Ian thing. And she just straight up pulls a knife to his throat.
She does. It's brutal. I
Um,
loved it. Barbara's motive throughout all of this is preventing the Aztecs from sacrificing people, which for some reason, and I did not understand this, she thinks that will stop Cortez from destroying their entire civilization. And I don't know why she has that impression, because that absolutely would not have helped at all.
I have an answer.
Why?
Because you're going off of modern day knowledge of Cortez. Barbara is going off 1960s knowledge of Cortez. And
The ones that believed his excuse?
the historians still believe that Cortez was a peaceful, science-minded explorer who only conquered the Aztecs because of human sacrifice.
He was
My
just like,
God.
no, they were killing each other. I had to burn the city to the ground.
He had to burn the city to save it, people. Oh my gosh. Wow.
So, yeah.
Good Saint Cortez. Oh dear. Wow.
Again, we've learned a lot in nearly 60 years.
Oh boy. Well,
It's not a good excuse, but it's the reason that we have.
that's embarrassing. Yikes.
Like the central conceit of the show basically is it's about Barbara and the Doctor having these sort of rival perspectives where Barbara wants to use the time travel and space travel to do good and fix things that she sees as wrong, and the Doctor's like, nope, everything has to stay the same, we can't mess around with anything, and it becomes sort of a question of how is that going to come to a head.
Well, and that's the question that actually I asked Zach about. Barbara obviously wants to change history here. Can they change history? The Doctor in this episode seems to be saying no. I'm guessing that's not gonna stick.
There's a couple different answers I can give here, and people have actually given various reasons because yes, at points they can change history. One of the arguments that people actually have made for the Doctor's speech here is if history had changed there, it would have drawn attention that the Doctor doesn't want right now. The Time Lords would come and he doesn't want to deal with them right now.
The modern show's answer to, like, why can't we change the stuff that we know happens, but we can change, whatever new shit comes in. The excuse they've used is what they call fixed points in time, where, like, the Doctor's just like, nope, can't affect that. That's a fixed point in time. If I fuck with that, then shit's gonna get cray-cray up in here. Can't do anything. Sorry. Hands are tied.
So you can't go back and kill baby Hitler.
No.
But you'll see as we go on in the classic show, they do kind of explore this concept in different ways. That's why I could answer it in a bunch of different ways. They don't always work together, but it's often interesting how they explain it.
The classic show didn't really view not messing with time as a plot hole so much as a potential exploration. In New Who, when Russell T Davies brought the show back in 2005, he basically needed a pat answer for that question. Because obviously, if you can go back and change this thing that we need to change for the story, then why can't he just go back in time and kill baby Hitler or, prevent the bubonic plague from getting out or whatever other horrible thing? And the answer they gave is...
Stop the Daleks.
Stop the Daleks once and for all and all of that stuff. And the answer they gave is...
Well, we know that he'd like to kill baby Hitler because he wants to kill everybody. We might as well point him in a direction where it might help. Just saying. He has no problem with human sacrifice in this episode. No problem.
Hey, Ian kills someone in this episode.
He had it coming.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's very interesting. I also like that Barbara was genuinely upset when this harebrained scheme does not work. And not because of any, personal stuff, but because she genuinely loves the culture. Like, she's an Aztec nerd, apparently. And there's not the smugness that I was expecting. And they do end up not interfering in the indigenous culture, although not from lack of trying.
And her and Outlook have a nice friendship going on.
They did. I really appreciated that as well. Like, he is not treated as if he's childish or stupid for having these beliefs.
No, it's just he's like, this is what I grew up with.
Right. It was nice compared to what I was expecting.
I mean, like, yeah, there are still a couple things that get wrong, but on the whole, it's actually a very progressive serial, I would say, for the time.
Yeah,
Including
definitely.
in the messages it wants you to take away, which is sort of like, maybe white people shouldn't go around and fuck with all the brown people. Maybe that
Yep.
shit don't work.
Right. And yeah, that was, I don't know. I did appreciate that from it. I could do with less brown face, but I did appreciate that element
Yeah.
of it. Ian was actually good in this episode.
I know.
He did a lot of fighting, most of which is cheesy, but he's doing his best, whatever.
I
And
mean,
that incredible bird warrior outfit, the battle chicken attack. And he can do the Vulcan nerve pinch, apparently, which is
Yeah.
like, oh, okay. Did they
I-
teach that to all physics teachers? I'm just saying, he's
Yep.
he's not bad in this one, even if he does look like a really, really large Pidgeot.
it's especially impressive that he can do the Vulcan nerve pinch, since Vulcans won't even exist for 3 more years.
I know, right? Like maybe Star Trek stole it from Doctor Who. I don't know.
One of the things you'll find watching Doctor Who is every sci-fi concept that everything else had, Doctor Who somehow had first. Like you're going to see it all over the place. You're going to be like, oh, this is like that thing, but that thing doesn't come for another 20 years. What the fuck?
Yep. I'm kind of getting that impression already. I did like the Doctor in this episode. He has a lot of good moments. He gets to flirt, which was hilarious.
Yes.
I could definitely ship him and Kameka. He gets a comeuppance too when he
does.
is tricked into helping Ixta fight Ian. And he knocks out Ian, and he actually does apologize to Barbara at one point too. A real apology where he says he's sorry. But the Doctor also turns out to be right when he's talking with Barbara and Ian about the human sacrifices. They can't stop the sacrifices. The social inertia or religious practices or whatever it is too much.
But he concedes a point to Barbara that Autlock did learn and did change and did grow. And the fact that
Yes.
he's also willing to take the coin from Kameka, I would say this is a big growth serial for the Doctor. We're starting to see him become a more empathetic and heroic figure in comparison
Yes.
to the sort of trickster anti-hero that he's been up to this point. He's someone now who's starting to care about the time periods he's jumping into.
Yeah, he's less of a spectator.
I mean, my God, he was actually worried about Ian.
I know. He was. Genuinely. He didn't want Ian to die.
Nope.
Like,
So we
remember,
have that difference of opinion.
remember 3 serials ago where he was totally willing to throw Ian out into the vacuum of space? Yeah,
To be fair, it is Ian.
it is Ian.
Yes. Can we also mention that Ian is everyone's favorite patsy? That's 2 serials in a row that
He did. He got framed for murder again in this
He
one.
did.
Does he just have a murdery face? Like, I didn't think that, but
and
He's just-
apparently the method is clubbing, though actually there is a reason for that. They weren't allowed to show any violence that could be easily replicated at home.
the scissors were a
yes.
problem.
Yes.
Yeah.
But
Oh. Whereas you're not likely to have a ceremonial Aztec club anywhere
yes.
in your house.
But of course, obviously, kids will not be able to find any other blunt instruments to whack on their back of their parents' or siblings' heads.
Oh, clearly not.
No, that's impossible.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
But you bring scissors in? That's too real,
And
man.
let's not even mention the rock from the first serial.
Yeah, no kidding. There aren't any rocks in anybody's houses. That'd be silly. Or
This is all-
Barbara's knife from this episode.
This
No
is
one has
again
knives.
also why a sword through the back is totally okay.
Yeah, oh yeah, why not? Nobody has swords. I mean, they're in Great Britain. Everybody's got
Everyone
swords.
has swords.
Everyone has swords. There's tons of museums and old places, and yeah, I mean, okay.
Dear Great British listeners, we basically view you with swords as us with guns. Or like just everyone has them lying around.
I mean, they're not like sharpened or anything, but they have like swords on plaques and, up on the wall looking all
Yeah.
pretty and cool.
And I mean, you've got to have them around in case the Goths invade again. You never know.
Yeah. Well, we might pay you back for that British invasion sometime.
This.
You sent us the Beatles, we'll send you, I don't know, Who do we have? Is Paula
No,
Abdul
they have
still
One
around?
Direction.
Yeah. I don't know.
Justin Bieber?
We could send them. No.
I don't think they want him.
Here's the thing. I know enough about British pop music to know that all of it is worse than even what we have over here.
Whoa. Let's
I
not go
doubt
there.
that.
Yeah, I'm calling you out, England. We had only one Justin Bieber. Your Jedward was 2 Justin Biebers.
Ooh.
Whoa.
That's harsh, dude.
Okay.
Speaking of terrible people that should be sacrificed, the Doctor was totally willing to let people be sacrificed in this episode.
Yes, he was.
Yeah.
Yes,
Again.
Part of that is coming down from Sidney Newman, one of the creators. With Hartnell, they wanted the Doctor to be a loose cannon. So if things were boring, the Doctor could just do something off the wall.
Like killing somebody? That's kind of an overreaction.
I will also say we had a technical suicide in this serial.
We did.
Guy jumps to his death.
I forgot about that.
Yeah, I gave you a content warning actually ahead of time. I usually let you go in blind, but every once in a while I'm like, there's something here I should probably mention.
Yeah.
And I was like, man jumping to his death, I should probably bring up that that's a thing.
That's a good idea.
Because I do remember watching that for the first time and going, holy shit, I
Yeah,
couldn't believe they got away with that.
There are some deaths. I mean, there are some deaths. There have been deaths in a lot of these now. Like Marinus, a lot of people died by acid, which is a horrifying thing.
Yeah. In the Daleks, of course, people are being whisked to death.
Yeah, that thing is brutal. Never trust a whisk. I did notice though that the show, what is this? The 6th one?
This is the 6th serial, yes.
The show is already really, really reaching for reasons that they can't get back to the TARDIS right away.
Yeah.
And then at the end, the TARDIS breaks again.
Minor spoiler, even though the TARDIS is acting weird, the TARDIS is not broken at the end. That is
no, that's
we get
setting
an actual
up for the next
explanation.
series.
Yep.
Well, here's the thing. They still haven't fed it. And I can't help but notice that you just had a guy get human sacrificed, and you could have easily just like grabbed a leg or an arm on the way out from the perfect victim. He was a really nice guy. I'm sure he wouldn't have minded.
Maybe the TARDIS is a vegetarian.
Kari,
well, I mean,
you have to understand he jumped to his death, and that's a lot of stairs. You want them to go all the way down those stairs to get a leg and come back, like...
Well, they could go all the way down, tie the leg to a rope, and then just, drag the rope back up. You don't have to go back up the stairs.
How do you get the rope back up if you don't go up the stairs?
Well, you leave the rope,
pulley
you
system.
leave one end up at the top, and you bring the other end down with
They
you.
had a pulley system.
They did have a pulley system, that is true.
Another historical thing we know now, but they didn't know then. The Aztecs had wheels. They were mainly toys, but they had wheels.
Yeah, absolutely they did. I'm just saying that they could probably have spared one limb for a hungry TARDIS. And if it was a vegetarian, they had the garden right there. You could have fed him some cocoa beans. Of course, then you would have had to marry him, but, all good.
The Doctor is kind of already married to the TARDIS anyway.
I could ship that. I don't know. I'm just saying.
And remind me at the end, I have something for us to
we're
watch
not there
on
yet,
cocoa
though.
beans.
We're not
no,
yet
at
there
the
yet,
end,
though.
Yes.
We're gonna get a blind reaction from you, Kari, but we're gonna come back to that.
Okay.
So yeah, on the production end for episodes 2 and 3, they were allowed into the good studio.
Ooh, is that the one where they didn't have any cameras that could zoom?
That was just in general.
That's just their general cameras.
Oh no! Oh my gosh, those poor people.
They're like, you can use the good studio, but you can't touch our cameras, peons. Bring your own broken cameras.
But when they returned to back for episode 4, their garden set from episode 1 had been pretty much destroyed.
Oh no.
So they had to recreate it from memory, and if you go back and look, you'll notice a lot more plants. They just replaced what they couldn't reproduce with a whole lot more plants to block the view.
I will say this is my third time viewing it, and I still haven't noticed that, though. So, you know.
No, I absolutely didn't notice either.
Verity Lambert was considered a miracle worker by the BBC because they mainly worked out of studios D and G, which are basically the worst studios on the BBC lot.
They're very puny, hence why they couldn't do the forced perspective effects they wanted for Planet of the Giants.
Yeah, but the BBC was always impressed with the sheer number of sets that Verity Lambert could fit into those studios.
Verity Lambert was a motherfucking boss. It's really incredible how much she personally was able to get this show off the ground.
Probably didn't get thanked either.
At the time, no. They did make a made-for-TV biopic, though, in which she is the central figure. So
that's
nice.
cool.
We'll probably watch that at some point.
Awesome.
I will also say, and this I think will lead into a larger piece from Uzak. Even though Kamika did not go with the Doctor, we will see that actress again.
Oh.
Zach apparently discovered that pretty much everyone in this serial comes back at some point in Doctor Who.
Are we going to get soliloquied at again?
Probably not.
That was disconcerting.
He shows up quite a bit in the first Doctor era, though, that actor.
I don't want him to talk at us again. It was creepy.
You're still traumatized.
It was weird.
Doctor, make the scary man go away.
Okay, the thing is, like, if you watch Richard III, while the movie and the play start that way, like, you're not expecting him to do that because the whole show is like that. Like, in this case, you're like 90% of the way through the episode. There's like 2 minutes left, and all of a sudden he talks to you.
Yeah, it's the ending shot of the episode.
Yes, it's very disconcerting. Oh, I just don't want him to talk to us again. That was weird.
Oh, he will.
And Otlock comes back, and I think even Ixta comes back.
Oh, well, that's good.
Not as their characters, but the actors come back.
Right. Yeah.
Doctor Who double casts all over the motherfucking place.
Well, I mean, they were working from a limited stable of actors.
From what I understand, there are like 20 actors in England, and they just keep using them over and over again.
And actually, most of the people who were in this one had never done TV before. They were all stage actors.
Huh.
I think
maybe that explains the Richard III stuff.
Yeah, I think that explains a lot of his performance.
Gotta reach those high seats.
Also, to add that this is the first case of Ian having a stunt double. They had an actual martial arts expert.
Seriously?
Yeah.
Wow.
I say martial arts expert, a martial arts expert who was white and British in the 60s.
Well, I mean, boxing is a martial art. That counts.
I know it definitely wasn't that, but I'm hoping that it was, what's his name, fighting trousers guy?
Yeah, Professor Elemental.
Professor Elemental. I would love for it to be Professor Elemental. For some reason, when you said white British old martial artist in England, that's who jumped into my head.
He does box.
Are you biting me, sir?
And Verity Lambert actually got in trouble because of those fight scenes because they edited them too much.
How so?
Too many cuts.
Too many cuts?
I mean,
basically for a single shoot, they were only allowed like 4 per episode, 4 cuts.
So they need it's because it costs them money, is what you're saying.
Yeah.
Okay.
That makes sense. I think they're doing a lot of this stuff like in camera. I don't think they had post work.
They had very little post work and they had a maximum of the amount of cuts. Also, they did actually get proof from teachers and everything that the historicals, Marco Polo and this one and the other ones actually did cause kids to ask their teachers to learn more about these time periods.
Oh, that's nice.
That's
and
neat.
We're going to get another one at the tail end of this season.
Right. Also, we mentioned the scissors incident. There were a lot of letters to Verity Lambert that this serial was way too scary.
You know, I snickered at that, but it is fairly intense. We see Ian actually bleed in this serial. I'm not sure we've seen like actual blood in Doctor Who before this.
Well, no, but that's because guys fell in an acid bath and there was nothing left. I'm sorry, but that's way more violent than this.
Yes, but it's violence that is more real is what they're concerned with.
Well, I mean, people do die to acid. That is the thing that happens.
Also, apparently, Taloxacotl really scared a lot of kids.
Well, yeah, he talked right to him. Ugh.
I mean, we scared Kari and she's a grown woman, so.
Yeah, exactly. Jeez. Can't just do that.
So for the record, acid and swords through the back, perfectly okay. Soliloquies and scissors, nope, too intense. Too much for the kiddies.
At least we have
Brits.
our standards.
Yeah, very important. So shall we show Kari the special surprise?
Uh-oh.
How do you want to do this?
So you're showing me a thing.
Yep.
Yes.
This was
Should I give any introduction or explain afterwards?
I think we should explain afterwards. I think we should let her go in blind.
Okay, but if this is a jump scare, I'm gonna be pissed.
No, trust me, it is not a jump scare.
If this is Goatsy or Lemon Party or one of those other types, 2 girls, 1 cup, I'm gonna be real mad.
It's more Freddy as FRO7.
Oh no.
Everyone listening at home, I will share this link in the video description. So if you're
we will be back. Yeah.
Okay, I'm watching it.
Does this mean we are now to be married?
No.
Is this like an audio thing where they had the audio again? Like, is this cut from this episode?
This was recorded in 2002
They literally brought these actors back to do this
for a DVD.
Oh
release.
my god, these are the actual actors?
Yes.
These are the actual
Yes.
actors. This was actually funded by the BBC for an official DVD release in 2002.
I've watched it about 8 times today.
They're kind of adorable. Yeah, that was bizarre. Okay. Well,
Are we married now?
yeah, no kidding. That's my question.
But yeah,
Oh my
they literally brought the actors back to record this when they put it. I have the distinct suspicion that it was just like, we're making a DVD. We need features.
Well, they also had them. They did do a making of and had actual interviews with them.
Okay, so they had them around and.
Yep, and they had their cousin or something animated.
I'm assuming their cousin was 8.
Well, that's not bad though. It's just really stylized.
Somewhere Trey Stone and Matt Parker are just laughing their asses off at this.
You can tell who they are.
Yeah.
I mean, X marks the spot with that hat, so it's kind of hard not to, but
I'm just saying, in 2002, I'm pretty sure I was watching better stuff on Newgrounds.
yeah, probably, but that's adorable. I don't know. It seemed accurate, I guess.
I had to share that.
Yeah.
That was different.
So yeah, I figure that's our closer there.
Yeah.
If you're listening to this and are confused, please, by all means, check the link below.
Yes, and learn how to make cocoa.
Yes, they found the best cocoa teachers. So yeah, otherwise, I think we've covered the Aztecs. It was a very solid serial. Everyone around liked it all around. So yeah, carrying forward, we will be traveling back into space and exploring our sense spheres in the Sensorites.
Ooh.
Until then, this is the Daleks Aren't Robot crew reminding you to feed your TARDIS and be careful who you make cocoa for.
And wear a chicken hat.
Wear a chicken hat.
Yeah.
Yes. The chicken hat may protect you. All right?
And don't talk directly to the camera.
Don't do that.
My fiancée.
I see.
Oh, what? Yes, I made some cocoa and got engaged.